Hello, this is David Mandel. Welcome to the open garden that my wife Nancy and I gave on June 2nd, 2013. It was hosted by my wife and I, with great assistance by Jake Welsh, who provided labor and a bit of and a lot of artistry in helping us put together our yard. We basically have been remodeling our yard this year, and this open garden was originally given for the Hardy Plant Society of Oregon, but anybody was invited, and we've given a number of open gardens this summer, or we plan on giving even more. Let's look at the overall layout of the yard. Our yard is in South Corvallis. It's half an acre, and in the middle of town. It's 82 feet wide by 260 feet long. This long, narrow lot gives us a number of ways of using it. There's a lot of ways of using a lot like this, and we have broken it into various rooms and then broken the subrooms into rooms and things of that type. According to our map, in the front of the house is our front yard, which is about 72 feet long. This map is a little bit out of date, but the basic design is correct. We have the driveway over in this area. We have the bulk of the lawn over in here, and then in this area over to the side of the house we have a side yard. This area back in here we have made into a kitchen garden or an herb garden. It says shed, but the shed has now been moved over into this area, and this is a kitchen garden. This whole area is the backyard, and it becomes a little less formal than the front yard, but it's still basically a flower garden. There is an herb garden in it. There are a few vegetables here and there, and there's a big walnut tree, and we of course harvest the walnuts, but for the most part it is an ornamental garden. Over in here we've also built a shed, which is not showing, well, it's showing here as old shed. We rebuilt that shed. Then we have a fence type arrangement here, or a hedge. It goes back into what we call the garden area. Back in here we have our rose garden. The bulk of our berry gardens are grapes. And then we have another hedge type fence area, and that behind that we have the orchard. And as one goes from the front of the yard to the back of the yard, it goes from ornamental to more vegetables and fruit. Although we don't have a hard and fast line there. You'll find ornamentals in the orchard. You'll find food in the front yard, actually. I know of at least one zucchini there. So, and in the very backyard is actually where we're doing most of our vegetable gardening right now. And that seems to be working out well. We do have a little bit of problem with a lot of shade. As you can see, there's a lot of trees in here. Cherry trees, apple trees, walnut trees. You name it, we have trees. Okay, let's continue. Going back to the front yard, let's just take a look at the front yard. A little bit of garden art here. I think every garden needs some art, and we have invested some in garden art. a rose. It's been a little beaten up by the weather, but it still looks pretty good. I will say we do not use much, we don't use many chemicals. Our roses have to make it on their own for the most part. We do not do heavy spraying. We try to look for roses that don't get black spot or mildew or things of that too bad. Of course, all roses pick up some black spot. In which case, the rose goes. Okay, in the front yard, our driveway is actually gravel, and part of the remodeling we did was to re-gravel a lot of the driveway and some of the areas in the back. I believe Jake managed to move about 40 tons of gravel, so that's a lot of gravel. I'd mention what a lot of these plants are, but I'm not sure what all of them are. Of course, I know clematis and marigolds and, well, there's a clematis. There's some marigolds up in the corner. Hostas, roses, whatnot. But my wife is really the ornamental gardener. I'm more of a vegetable gardener. Okay, we're going around to the side garden now, or the side area, as we move towards the back of the house. And in this area, we have a lot of things in pots. This area right in here, we can move the pots when we want to, and we use that to get wood for our wood stove, and it's a place to stack things when we're moving wood and various things around. So grass doesn't work too well there. In the last shot, we had hydrangea. We have a number of hydrangeas. They do very well in this setting. This is a pie cherry tree, or a sour cherry. It got too high to pick, so I started to cut it out, and then as I got it cut part way out, I decided, well, maybe I could just prune it like the French do. Real radical pruning, and maybe it would be okay and continuous to give us cherries. So I pruned it down quite a lot, took out a few wrong branches since my original intent was to remove the tree, and I'll prune it a little more next year and slowly see if I can develop this into a shorter tree. It's actually looking somewhat promising, but time will tell. I'm always amazed at the way the French prune their trees. They throw caution to the wind in their pruning. This is a statue we have. Some argument behind whether it's a Indian woman or a Chinese woman. She looks Chinese to me. This is our kitchen garden, or our herb garden. We have tomatoes planted. We have peppers. That's a fig in the background. There's some basil, I think, in the foreground. Yes, basil, some lettuce behind that, and some radishes behind that. Now remember, this is very early in the year, or at least we had a wet May, so it was hard to get things in, and also we were traveling a little bit, so our things got planted a little bit late, and the result of that was things are not very high at this point. But actually I'm making this video in almost July now, and we're eating an awful lot from the garden. It is we've got fully grown plants. Been eating lettuce for a long time now. The statue there is a statue of Saint Frieka. He was a 6th century monk, Irish monk, and very early Irish monk, and he's known as the patron saint of gardeners, particularly herb gardeners. So I thought he was a very appropriate statue to have in this part of the garden. So that's what we have. This is some more of our herbs. In here we have rosemary, oregano, and thyme, mint. And here we have some strawberries. This is an experiment that I've been attempting, and I always have trouble with strawberries in that I always lose my strawberries to weeds. In fact, I guess that's the plague that everybody has with strawberries. So I thought that possibly I could plant them inside PVC pipe and drill little holes and see if they'd grow that way. I was inspired by a YouTube video I saw of strawberry production in the Cameron Highlands of Malaysia. I happened to travel through that area 30 years ago, and the farmers there were very innovative, so when I saw their strawberry patches, well, I had to try something a little like that. What I do is I run dripper hose through the pipes and try to do my watering through the dripper hose. That works pretty well. I put 2 hoses through each pipe, so if one gets clogged, I still get water through. And I've done the water sort of in parallel. I've hooked both ends of each soaker hose to a mainline hose. So the hoses are hooked at both ends of the table. So I'm always sure to get water through. The truth is, I get a little too much water through. I seem to have water all over anytime I water these. I probably lose half my water, but maybe that's not such a big deal because I only have to water these a couple minutes a day, and losing half the water, I still use less water than people would normally use because with everything in pipe, I get very little evaporation except for the transpiration through the leaves of these strawberries. So by and large, it's been pretty successful. I'm having a little trouble getting fertilizer to the strawberries. I've intend on using fertigation. I haven't installed that yet, but I'm about to install a fertigation set so I can water the strawberries that way. And we've had strawberries for a month now, so of course in the picture from early June you've just got little green berries here, but we've already gotten a lot of strawberries off of this, so it's been a very successful experiment. The other thing one might do with the water is, if I got fancy, I could catch the water as it came out and recycle the water. And that might be a good thing to do. And that, if I did that, I think I could actually get by using very little water, which is kind of cool. And the way I built this thing, I can put a cover on it by leaving the post extended somewhat. I can cover this for birds, for, most anything I need to cover it and protect it from. I haven't needed protection from birds or anything. So, slugs This is kind of a hard surface. It's way up high, so slugs do not attack my berries. Birds haven't been real bad on them. I'm willing to share a few. And so it's been very successful. Continuing. This is more of the backyard. Over on the side we have a couple birds in the middle of the lawn and a dog. Some hostas here, a woodshed here, and then just an area in the yard where we have plants. This is a gunra plant, which has huge leaves. It's a beautiful plant, and up above the gunra is actually a rugosa rose. It's a beautiful rose. The flowers are really cool, but it's really the plant that's cool, and I think it's neat just to let it go and let it look like a bush. It's got red canes. It looks really nice. More of the garden, backyard. Little more garden art. This is our rebuilt shed. The old shed was in pretty bad shape, so we rebuilt it a year or so ago. I use it for a lot of my electronic stuff. This is some junk, and we decided to keep this. It's a fireplace insert, and if you see down here, we have a clematis growing up over it, and hopefully this will make a good trellis for a clematis. At least that's what we're hoping. So continuing. Some ornamental onions. Our friendly iris. My dog barking in the background. Here's a clematis going up onto the fence. A Colette rose. Now we're moving into the backyard, or the garden area. Well, we're not completely moved yet. This is our walnut tree. The walnut tree should have a lot more leaves than it has. It seems to be a little bit sick. That's really too bad. I'd hate to lose this walnut tree, but I suppose we will in time here. The walnut tree is really nice to have when it's warm in the summer. And that's a gateway going back into the garden area, from the backyard to the garden area. Okay, in the garden area, here's our rose gardens. Well, buttercups in rose garden. We allow buttercups to grow in the rose garden because because it looks good, and we no longer exhibit our roses, so we want them to look good in a natural setting. We don't really care much about each individual rose as much as we care about how they look in the garden. Behind this rose is a golden hop, which is Oregon grows a lot of hops, so that's cool. And actually behind that, in the backyard, backyard area are two crabapple trees. So we don't use the crab apples, but they're beautiful, beautiful flowers in the spring, and a nice looking tree. They really add something to the yard. More of the rose garden. And in the background you can see grapes. The white stuff on the leaves here is deer repellent. We do have problems with deer. Okay, here we have our berries. What we have for berries here is over in here we have grapes. Back in here we have spring-bearing raspberries. Over here we have some currants. We also have some blueberries in the foreground, just out of the picture. We've got some gooseberries. Here's our blueberries. Of course, the blueberries are green this early in the year, but they'll be blue by July. That's a currant. That's our raspberries. And we had a great crop of raspberries this year. As you can see them coming on now in the pictures here. By July, we've had a lot of raspberries. Here's our grapes. I have a combination of wine grapes and table grapes. You can see the grapes coming on here in the picture. They're still very small. They don't get ripe until towards the end of summer, so they've got a long time to go. This is a grape that I've trellised. It's an old grape that I've had for a long time. And these two grapes have been here for a long time as well. The first grape, which I just re-trellised, was actually with the property when we bought it 30-some years ago. These grapes we put in, they were two of the earlier grapes we put in. And my father and father-in-law jointly built the trellis many years ago. And you're interrupted. Oh, thanks. Well, my wife says these are the last grapes we put in. That's right. I did have kiwi here, and the kiwi died. Anyway, this was a joint project between my father and father-in-law, and a bottle of schnapps. So, the trellis was falling down a bit, so I repaired it this year. These are some blackberries that I put in Triple Crown, and that's an experiment. This thing here is a tree which is protected by a trellis to protect it from deer. And this is our backyard. This is the back walnut tree, and there's lots of grass and stuff growing in here. We try to grow the grass. We try to leave this very natural, kind of a natural meadow, and we don't mow it until late in the year after everything's gone to seed, so that we can help promote native plants and things of that type, native grasses. So we don't do much with it until late in the year, and then we will cut it. For one thing, it makes it a lot easier to harvest the walnuts. Okay, this is in the back orchard. This is in the orchard area, And in this area, as well as the orchard, I have a few other things. These are raspberries, which I just put in this year. These raspberries are fall-bearing raspberries. So we should get some raspberries out of them this year, but not until late in the summer, which is good because the other raspberries will be done by then. We have a volunteer sunflower here, and we're just letting it go. This is an apple tree. It's an old apple tree. I don't know what it is, but it has great apples, so I keep it. This is an Asian pear tree. It generally bears pretty lightly, but this year we'll have a decent crop out on it. In the very back we have a number of roses. They're old roses and kind of rambling roses that make a good fence. And we have some holly. This is a male holly that has variation on the leaves. This is a cherry. We have several cherry trees in the back. Unfortunately, they've gotten a little tall. They're hard to pick. This is a Gravenstein apple tree. Gravenstein I really like Gravenstein apples. Gravensteins tend to bear heavily every other year, and this is a real off year for this tree. It has like about 2 apples on it. It's normally bears well, but not this year. This is a pear tree. One branch of it is a winter pear, and the bulk of the tree is Bartlett pears. This is a goji berry. I have a couple goji berries, and here's my raised beds, which is a project that I've redone this year. I left the post high so that I can use those posts to put covers over things, to put deer protection, to put bird protection, or even to cover it with plastic and use this more for winter gardening as kind of a greenhouse type area. Things are small here because I just got things planted, but here we see beets. Here we see beets. They're just coming out of the ground. There's peas coming out of the ground here. Well, the peas are getting pretty good size. There's carrots in here coming up, along with quite a bit of grass in there. Parsnips down there. This is an experiment that seems to have failed for the most part, starting some trees from slips. Eggplants with an understory of mustard greens. These are turnips, Swiss chard, beans, string beans, leeks, onions, quite a variety of onions, some cucumbers in the foreground. I'll put trellises up, and these the cucumbers can grow up on trellises. And then this is rhubarb. And of course, one needs someplace to sit nice and quietly and watch your garden grow while drinking a nice glass of beer. So under the filbert tree, or what out of Oregon is called hazelnut tree, I have a little table where I can drink beer or do whatever. And in here, I am growing, down here, I was building a arbor that I was going to put kiwi fruit on, over hardy kiwi fruit. But then I went to France and did a tour of the gardens of southern France and decided that maybe this should be actually a pergola. And, well, we'll see in the future. Maybe that's next year's project. Here's the hardy kiwi going up the thing. And that's the end. Thank you.